You're listening to Finding Fortitude, a podcast that aims to help former athletes take good care of their minds and bodies through sustainable, evidence-based health habits. I'm your host, Dr. Tori Williams, a physical therapist, coach, and fellow former athlete who is ready to be part of the change in healthcare and who is on a mission to learn and share about all things health and well-being so that you can be equipped with the knowledge and tools to live your best life. As a reminder, nothing shared on this podcast should be considered medical advice. Let's get started. Okay, we are back. Hello, and welcome back to Finding Fortitude. I am super excited to be back after a bit of a hiatus over the summer and early fall. Since the last podcast episode dropped, I have had some changes happen in my life. I changed some work hours, my part-time job in the clinic. I stepped into the role of clinical instructor for a physical therapy student. I moved into a new apartment with my fiance where I now have an office instead of operating out of the dining room / living room. I started planning my wedding. And I've also had some intermittent technical difficulties with this poor old computer of mine that has been faithful to me since college, but she's probably not going to be around too much longer, unfortunately. And despite all of these certainly valid excuses for why I haven't been releasing episodes, I wanted to talk to you today about another bigger and deeper reason that I think I've delayed getting some podcast episodes out to you. And this is something that I know a lot of other people struggle with as well, and I think it's worth having a conversation about. And if you saw the title of this episode, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. But something you should know about me, if you don't already, is that I am very much a recovering perfectionist. I am a big planner. I love to plan things. But when it comes to actually doing the thing, oftentimes I'll become an expert at procrastinating. And this is something that I have known about myself for a while, and I've been actively working on it. But over the last 6 months, I've come to realize that this podcast has proven to be a good test of my perfectionist tendencies. Because, surprise, surprise, those very tendencies can make the whole recording, editing, and marketing process for this podcast a little bit harder and a little slower. Especially when I care so deeply about wanting to put out high quality content that is both entertaining and evidence-based and informed. So, with that said, I know that I have let fear paralyze me and keep me playing safe and staying small for long enough. So I've decided that this next phase of my life, both in business and my personal life, is going to be officially dedicated to good enough, which I can tell you right now is deeply uncomfortable for me, especially saying that out loud and knowing that this is recorded, and knowing that this is also the season of my life where I'm planning my wedding, which I also care deeply about. But the reason I want to talk about this today, really, for this podcast, is because I know that I'm not alone in this. I know there are a lot of other people who struggle with perfectionist tendencies as well. I find that a lot of former athletes have this issue because we've so often been taught that perfection is really what gets us wins, right? It's what makes us better as athletes. And, you know, of course, it gets us approval from coaches and peers and opponents and media and whoever else. And then outside of sport, of course, it's also rewarded socially and in certain jobs, and especially as women. So today, I want to give you the permission to join me. If you have struggled with perfectionism, I want to first start by reminding you that you are enough, exactly as you are. And also remember that perfect is boring, right? Like, it's so boring and it deprives you of so many good things in life. And it's not real. No one is perfect. And I know we hear that a lot, right? And we're like, yeah, I know. But then we still strive to be that anyways. But it deprives you of creativity. It deprives you of opportunities that maybe you're too scared to go for because you'll think you'll mess it up. And most importantly, perhaps it deprives you of your peace of mind and it adds so much unnecessary stress to your life. So I wanted to make this comeback episode fairly short and sweet, but before I go, I thought it might be helpful to share some of the things that I have been working on that have been helping me slowly let go of perfectionism. And I am by no means the expert on this, so please feel free to take what you want and leave the rest. And actually, I'd highly recommend checking out some of Karin Norden's work and her company Body Brain Alliance. That is where I've learned the vast majority of the information I know about behavior change outside of a few books. And no, she has not paid me to do any of this. I just am a huge fan of her work, and I think you would be too, especially if you're interested in the science behind behavior change and how to make it happen for you. Okay, anyways, so the first step to changing your behavior, really in any capacity, is noticing and recognizing your current behavior. Fortunately for me, self-awareness is something I'm pretty well practiced in. Not to brag, but my therapist once told me that I am one of the most self-aware people she has ever worked with. Just kidding, but kind of not really. And there's that perfectionist in me, once again, wanting to win at therapy and be the perfect client. I also know that there are others out there who will relate to that. But the important thing here is not just being self-aware, right, and being mindful, but also being kind to yourself in the process. Making sure that you're cultivating self-compassion. I think that's absolutely necessary for any sort of successful or sustainable behavior change. So remember that. And this obviously takes practice. I have learned with this process to look inward during situations where I find myself procrastinating or avoiding a task or kind of ruminating on something. And what I usually do is ask myself, as objectively and compassionately as possible, what is holding me back right now? And I can tell you that most of the time, what's holding me back is some form of fear. Fear kills growth, it kills dreams, it kills innovation, and honestly, it ultimately kills joy because it stunts action. And action is what's required to create change and to do anything in life. So with this, I will also say, while that practice is helpful, being mindful, looking inward, asking yourself compassionately, what is holding me back right now? We also have blind spots, and we can't always be perfectly mindful and aware of our own tendencies, especially when we're really overloaded and stressed and have a lot of things going on. It's hard to have that extra capacity to be conscious and mindful and aware sometimes. So it can be helpful to have someone close to you who may be able to kindly point out where perfectionism is creeping into your life. So this can be like a partner, a close friend, a family member, or better yet, a coach or a therapist. A special shout out to those of you in my life who do this for me. Thank you. If you're listening, you know who you are. So once I've recognized perfectionism, once you've recognized perfectionism in your life, you've named it, and you've looked inward and compassionately tried to ask yourself questions and uncover the potential reasons for it, then it becomes time to take action and do the thing. And obviously, this is the really uncomfortable part, but we need to accept that discomfort is part of growth. It is required. And starting really small with action really can help with this. In fact, the more bite-sized and simple you can make it, the better. So as an example, lately I've started to add more intentional moments throughout my day where I notice what I'm doing and my surroundings, and I allow things to be good enough. This can be allowing a few dirty dishes to sit in the sink. This could be allowing a typo to stay in a text or something like that feels non-threatening. This could be allowing a few crumbs to sit on the kitchen counter instead of immediately cleaning up, allowing myself to go out of the house in my pajamas without makeup, that sort of thing. You get the point. It can start somewhere where, again, it's bite-sized and it feels accessible to you and uncomfortable, but maybe not like starting with the most scary big thing that you can think of. So start small, allow yourself to sit in the discomfort of that thing, and then celebrate the victory of doing that and give yourself some sort of reward. This is honestly, I think, the part that I need to be a little better about with myself. I'll often acknowledge myself internally, like, okay, good job, that's good enough. But I think I need to make celebrating small wins a bigger deal. I preach this to my clients all the time. You'd think I'd be doing it better myself, but alas, here we are. So, to review, if you are someone who struggles with perfectionism, what I would recommend is starting by being mindful and self-aware, compassionately and kindly asking yourself, where is this coming from? What's holding me back right now? How am I feeling? What stories am I telling myself right now that are holding me back? And how can we start to offer alternatives to those stories or take action in small ways and not let that, fear of failure or whatever it is hold you back? And again, once you've done that, celebrate the hell out of it. Okay. So that is all I wanted to share with you today on this comeback episode of the pod. And I want to thank you for listening and allowing me the opportunity to open up and be vulnerable in the spirit of addressing our fears, and for letting me share a bit more about myself. And hopefully you got something out of this too. I hope that you'll choose to continue to go. I'm going to keep that in there. To go on this messy journey of good enough with me so we can all live our best lives. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Email me, shoot me a DM on Instagram, or better yet, share this episode or this podcast with someone you care about. Moving forward, I've got some super awesome guest episodes coming up as we move into the end of 2023. And I can't wait for you to hear these upcoming episodes. So to lay out some ground rules moving forward, I plan to be putting out episodes at least twice per month, about every other week. This is always subject to change, and my ultimate goal is to be able to release one episode per week. But I'm thinking for now, setting the goal of twice per month will be the most realistic and consistently achievable for me with all of the other responsibilities that I currently have. And now that I've said this out loud, I hope that you can help hold me accountable to doing the thing and publishing episodes on a regular basis. And on the flip side, if you need help being accountable for something, perhaps adjusting your exercise routine for the holidays, or finally addressing that old nagging injury that you have or that chronic issue you've been dealing with that keeps coming back to haunt you, I would love to help you do that. I have space for 2 more one-on-one online rehab coaching clients for the rest of the year. And you can learn more about that and sign up for a free discovery call with me on my website, which you can find in the show notes, or you can head to Instagram or email and shoot me a message and we can chat. All right, that is it for today. Thank you again for listening and for being here on this wild journey with me. And I'll talk to you again soon. Take good care of yourself. That was so Alexis Rose of me. Not to brag, but Us Weekly once described me as up for anything.